My autoethnography explores the idea of transformative identity and representation. It seems like a lot to digest, but we can just start at the beginning. I was born September 20th, 1997 to two 19-year-old parents. I later became the oldest sibling to two little sisters and one younger brother. Throughout my transition into adolescence, I always felt a bit out of place. While academically I flourished, I tended to feel socially outcasted from peers. Reflecting back on this as a pre-service teacher, I attribute this to feeling a lack of representation. There are very few teachers at the time that I could relate to culturally, and the representations of the media were very narrow for the idyllic Black girl. In my autoethnography and as a teacher, through these interviews, I seek to highlight the generational importance of identity and how embracing this transitional process of my life can be beneficial to my potential students.
Okay, so what was school like for you when you were growing up? Recent. What grade do you remember? What grade did you get into a lot of fights? What grade was that? Okay, what year were you in 6th and 7th?
I don't know.
Granny!
Well, I don't know what year it was. It's been so long, Nikki, Kayla. I don't.
Okay.
I was very smart in school. One thing, and well, we didn't have like you guys have now, like math. We had arithmetic. I was a cheerleader in high school. They call them a majorette. With the
Baton.
the boots, the hat, and all that.
Or was that in North Carolina? What was that in? Like where we go see Aunt Liz? Was that at?
Fayetteville. Yeah, they was all Black. We went to
So
all
was
Black school.
I was gonna say, so the school was all Black, and then so that does that mean like the neighborhoods are all Black too, or was there never any?
Well, where we went to school, that we had to ride about 2 miles before we went to school, and we wouldn't go to school. We didn't have privilege to go to school like y'all do 5 days a week. We could only go sometimes because we had to work in the field.
Whose field was it?
Whose field? My grandfather. We lived with our grandfather. And we would maybe go to school 2 or 3, maybe 3 days out of a week, and then we had to stay home and work in the field. And in the summer, in the spring of the year.
And so, like, what was the teachers like then at the school?
Well, I had all men teachers bad.
Were they Black or were they white?
They was Black. We went to all
So, so they was all Black.
All Black schools. I had all men teachers, and they didn't take no crap. They didn't call home, and we didn't go to no detention. When we was bad, he called you up in front of the class and laid your butt down on the table, and he'd take that paddle and beat your tail.
Okay, so it was the same.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, but I never got paddle in school. But I would get talked to a lot because I would take up for Houston because the kids picked at him because he's blind and he couldn't see how things were. And he didn't act like other kids, but he always had a problem. And they would pick at him. And see, the girls, well, they didn't like me because I was light-skinned and I had long hair. And they didn't like me. And they know if they picked on Houston, see, they would get me to fight them. That's the way that went. And I would fight them.
Did you think that your teachers like represented you?
No.
Well, probably because they were all dudes.
Yeah, there was all men teachers, and they would come in there and they would teach us. They was good teachers, they taught us, but they didn't take up no time with us.
This interview was interesting because my great-grandmother shares that while this was sometime in the 40s in an all-Black setting, she still didn't feel represented. She felt this feeling of being othered. It almost felt as if school wasn't supposed to function in a way to support its students, even though historically it would seem the most crucial. She felt this sense of othering in the sections of colorism, as well as her brother being a person with a disability, with blindness, as well as her describing some sense of a developmental disability as well. But even so, what was school like for you, elementary school?
Elementary school was fun growing up. Our teachers were real nice. Well, I went to school 57, and we would walk to school every day. And that's when they were integrating. There were half black and half white students in the school. And our teachers they weren't as strict.
You said it was integrated. So what year was it, just for reference?
That was in 1967, 68, pretty much. Integration was even throughout the communities. African Americans who had only lived as far as Jefferson was now moving into the Fillmore Broadway area, where before it was like they weren't even allowed to cross.
Papa, do you have some things you'd like to add, sir?
No. My wife is doing a pretty good job herself.
No, not during back then. Because I remember we had problems down at School 44 because we were in a predominantly white neighborhood then, and they didn't want African Americans or any other group coming down there going to their school. And I remember one of the kids, or a couple of the kids, had gotten beaten up. And that was the first time that our school had a walkout. They had to call the police because other kids from different schools were coming up to our school, causing trouble. One of the boys that was close to us, his name was Richard. He was walking home from school, or he was ready to leave school with his girlfriend. And there was a couple of us that were still there at school, and the guys jumped him. Guys ran to kind of help him, but he pushed me and two other girls back into school. One was his girlfriend, and we were all crying because we didn't want him to get hurt. I remember that my boyfriend at that time, he got arrested and put in the back of a police truck. And with the
Papa, what do you have to say?
She telling the truth. It was me.
They really, and then what? People started to listen.
Audre Lorde says, "Sometimes we are blessed with being able to choose the arena and the manner of our revolution, but more usually we must battle where we are standing." And Sister Outsider. This interview reminds me of the documentary about the migrant farmers and Cesar Chavez, or in the students in Rethinking Multicultural Classrooms. It just constantly says that when a system based on othering minorities does its job, we have no other choice but to challenge and to rebel.
Representation is important for them. And how do you feel that, especially for being a special education teacher, like how representation is important for them? And also the intersection of being a person with a disability. Like, how is that important to you, and how is it important? Why do you think it's important for students to have representation in classrooms?
I feel like just when you're in special ed, you already feel different. You feel like you're isolated. You feel like there's like shame, and there's like that disconnect, like they're kind of like their own thing, and I feel like that's the thing, that's probably the thing that made me want to become a special ed teacher, like understanding what it's like to feel different. It's hard because I'm not a boy and I'm not a person of color, so I don't really know what that's like, you know what I mean? I try to, I don't know if this makes sense, I won't know what that's like, you know what I mean? But reading and having the knowledge and the understanding that it's important for kids to be able to see themselves in their teacher and have that connection. So I connect in the ways that I can. We read stories and I try to make them relevant. I try to point out things. I have to have faith that I'm having an impact.
Representation is important, period, because it gives the students a frame of reference for what it is that they want to do. I'll never forget, well, first of all, the two most influential teachers for me in terms of music education were African American men, Donald Hilliard and Alfred Jarrett. And they laid a fantastic foundation for me that I was able to, it got rid of all the barriers because they understood the kind of household I grew up in, they understood the kind of neighborhood I grew up in, and yet they were able to open up this world of all different kinds of music because if they could do it, I could too. So what representation does, what it did for me was say, oh, okay, if they can do it, and they're showing me how to do it, I can do it too. The common thread, and I would even venture to say that it goes back to all the way back to me. And students, since school has been a thing, the common thread is students don't believe what they're capable of doing until after they've done it. And it's my job to say, okay, I understand your fear. Give me your fear. I'll take your fear. You give me your effort. And it's my job to coach you through the fear. But that's the biggest thing is that they feel like they can't do it, so they don't even try. There are a couple of pieces of advice that I live by. The first thing is you have to believe that every child can learn. You have to. Otherwise, don't enter the profession. That's one. You also have the obligation to show every child who they are. Show them themselves in the curriculum. You show them who you actually are and allow them space to show you who they actually are. And then let them know that you see them. Gonna make a difference, gonna make it right. Wait, and as I turn up the collar on my favorite winter coat, this wind is blowing my mind.
Embracing myself as a Black woman has been difficult in the sense that it has been transformative. I still don't know that I can fully understand what it means truly, as I'm always changing. Through listening to my mentors and my family, as well as in my field, the only thing I know for sure is that my future students will need someone who is okay with not knowing everything about everything and is willing to sacrifice pride to learn. We must struggle together not only to reimagine schools, but to build new schools that we are taught to believe are impossible. Bettina Love.